So today's guest, Daniel Orlandi. He is an Emmy award-winning costume designer whose varied credits include The Blind Side, as well as 6 other films with director John Lee Hancock, notably Saving Mr. Banks, one of my favorites. The film was nominated for 6 BAFTA awards, including Outstanding Costume Design. He worked with Ray Roach on Trumbo, and Meet the Parents, whose 20-year anniversary was celebrated by GQ for its classic fall style. Daniel has collaborated with Ron Howard, talk about Hollywood legend right there, Ron Howard, on The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, Cinderella Man, and Best Picture nominee Frost Nixon. He worked with James Mangold on celebrated films Ford v Ferrari and Logan, with Ryan Murphy on The Normal Heart, for which Daniel was nominated for the Emmy and Costume Designers Guild Awards, and on Last Holiday, which Queen Latifah's gown was included in Vogue's list of the best film red dresses of all time. So the list truly does go on. You should look up this wonderful man, Daniel Orlandi. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Do you get tired of hearing that incredible long list? Do you feel like it goes on and on?
No, I'm happy to hear it. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that movie.
Good. I'm so glad. It's good to be really proud of your work and
Yeah,
yeah, and the things that you've
the
accomplished.
collaboration that I'm proud of.
Yes, the collaboration is the amount of people and the names of people that you have worked with are, I'm sure, on many people's short list of desired people to work with. Like, I'm sure they're like, oh, that's one of my top 5 people I want to work with. So it's pretty incredible that you got to or get to.
Yeah,
I want to start back and go back to your childhood. Do you
okay.
mind telling us what your parents or your guardians did for a living? And what were you like as a kid, Daniel?
I grew up in New Jersey. My dad worked in the auto industry, had a car dealership, and we grew up close to New York. So when I was pretty young, I started going into Manhattan to see Broadway shows, and my family and I would go into town to see movies. So I always loved production design and costume design, even
Mhm.
when I was quite young. I used to draw sets and make up stories and do the costumes. And so I always was interested in that. You know, from a very young age.
Wow. What was one of your first shows you saw on Broadway? Do you remember?
Yes, Joel Grey and George M., where he played George M. Cohen. And I remember there was a scene, and this big set came in just for him to be on the phone. And I thought, wow, that's amazing.
Wow. You know what's also really cool about that story, not only the your specific memory of that, but then growing up in New Jersey and heading to see shows, is it's interesting that you can have an audience, hundreds of people, thousands of people, depending on the house, and what speaks to them may be completely different than what spoke
Um,
to you. And it was like this, it sounds like it was this inner artistic calling to you and what resonated with you.
yeah. And I was very lucky. I had very supportive teachers in grammar school and high school. And my art teacher guided me into the right college, and it was great.
That's
I,
great.
I
And so did you go to
so
Carnegie Mellon for
I went to
undergrad or
Carnegie
grad?
Mellon undergrad in the
Okay.
design in the theater department, but as a designer.
Yeah. Oh, great.
And I met my still my very best friends.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. We all looked out for each other starting out.
That's great. And then from Carnegie Mellon, you actually went to work off Broadway, right?
I would do off Broadway shows, and I was working in the art department for these public television miniseries that were very low budget. And my 2 friends from college and I were working together, and we said, hey, all of our friends in Los Angeles are working and making so much more money than us. And the 3 of us drove across the country with no jobs, and we immediately started working.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and I was a set designer, and I got a job working for a costume designer when I first moved here.
And what was that on?
Uh, It was so weird. I got hired from a friend from college to come in and do crafts projects on this Las Vegas show. And it just so happened the designer was looking for a new assistant. And I got the job with no experience in the movies.
Oh,
And I got
wow.
to the union and I worked for that designer, Bob Mackie, for 8.5 years.
It was Bob Mackie?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Oh my gosh.
From a
Oh my
2 day
gosh.
job.
That's incredible. So tell us what kind of shows you did for Bob Mackie back in the day.
He
What
was
that I mean
looking,
that you worked on
yeah.
is like,
He was looking for a new assistant because he was doing this big movie called Pennies from Heaven with Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters. And I got the job as his assistant costume designer and got into the union. And then I stayed with him and he did a lot of variety shows and tours of, singers and performers and a couple of other movies. And then he started a fashion line and I worked with him on that. And then my friends that I moved here with came over and said, okay, it's time for you to work on your own. And so I left Bob and started designing on my own.
wow, so your friends really encouraged you to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Our friends, don't you, our friends are our touchstones and they,
Mhm.
you can't pull anything over on them.
Yeah.
I knew you when.
Yeah. That's good. It sounds like they're really good friends that help sharpen you rather than like
Yes.
pull you down.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great.
But pull you down when you need to be, when you're a little on your high horse. It's like,
That's true.
I
Like
remember when we called you pig fingers.
Gerald, did you have to bring that up? That's funny. That's incredible. So, what was the first thing you worked on after your friends encouraged you and you left working with Bob Mackie for 8.5 years?
Well, they got me this job. It's very funny on this television special, the David Copperfield special. And surprisingly enough, I won an Emmy for it. My first design job leaving Bob Mackie.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like he called me and said, "What? You won an Emmy?"
Were you privy to any of his how-tos of David Copperfield? Like any of his?
Well, here's the thing. He's very secretive about that. And I would design a costume. He said, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. And his assistant would whisper in my ear, needs a hole right there. And I'd put the hole in. He said, oh, I love it.
Gotcha. Now we know how all of it's done. It's with a hole. No, I'm
What?
just
Here's
kidding. I'm
the
just kidding.
thing. Yeah, but you know what I mean? It's like it
Right.
needs
No, I totally know.
and that's going to make it work.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, yeah, it was really fun. So I did a bunch of television specials and tours with him.
Oh, that's awesome. Was he a fun person to work with?
Really fun.
Yeah.
And the team was really fun because they, their whole focus was magic and nothing else,
Mm.
touring around the world. And, yeah, that's a very interesting group. And I keep in touch with a bunch of them.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So you've done an incredible amount of films, which we're going to kind of lightly touch on throughout our time with you today. But before we like dab into all of those, I want to find out how did you become attached to the Borderlands film?
I'm not sure, but I went in and they called me and said, would you be interested? And I was like, Borderlands. And yeah, and I watched YouTube videos of people playing the game because I'm not a gamer. And it was kind of fun. It's like, this is something I've never done before. That sounds interesting to me because that's the best thing about working in film. It's always different,
Yeah.
always different.
Okay, well, I'll need to cross off my question on have you played Borderlands?
Oh, sorry.
No, just kidding.
But it was really fun. I watched hours of people playing the games and getting
Yeah.
so excited about it.
That's pretty intense. Like my son plays Zelda. He loves the Zelda games, but he
Uh-huh.
also watches people. He does the gameplay and watches people play the game so then it can help him like if he was having trouble. So I know what you're talking about, like how kind of like fascinating it can be to watch the gameplay and watch somebody else play it.
Yeah, and it was fun to watch them because see what they were excited about while they're playing the game. It's like, oh, we have to make sure we, have that.
Oh, what a fascinating way to do research. That's very
Yeah.
cool. So you have no idea how this call came to you. Like, hey,
I
would you like
don't. I think I went in with a bunch of people to interview to do the
to?
job,
Okay.
and
Wow.
they hired me.
That's great. How
Really glad
fun.
they did. It
Yeah.
was such a wild ride.
So what excited you about accepting the offer when you got that phone call or email or whatever it was that let you know that, hey, would you be willing to do this? What excited you
It
about
was
going? Yeah.
something I'd never done before, and it was like all design. We have to make everything. We made everything. I didn't know how difficult it was going to be because we were in the middle of a pandemic and we went to Budapest to shoot, and the supply chain was quite limited. So we had to make everything there, almost everything there. We
Oh,
got
wow.
a few things from outside the country, but just getting stuff into the country was difficult. But it was super fun because, necessity is the mother of invention. And yeah, we had the best time. We had a great crew. I brought a couple of people with me from the States, and
Do you remember what the necessity being the mother of invention, do you remember anything in particular that you were like, well, I guess we're gonna spray paint this toilet paper roll to look like, was there anything that
yeah,
you
it
remember?
was that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, I wish we could have this, but we don't, so we're going to use this. And yeah, it was really fun. We had an amazing crew of, technicians and creatives and painters and special effects costume people. It was funny. I was in this little vintage store and there was a painting on the wall. And I was talking to the woman who ran the store, and I said, "Oh, that's a beautiful painting." She said, "Oh, he's a young set designer." And I'm like, "Do you think he'd be interested in coming and painting clothes for us?" And she said,
Oh,
"Yeah, call him." And we called him, and he did, for a lot of the characters, he did like Basquiat inspired paintings on a leather jacket and wild kind of abstract. He was so talented. And it was
oh,
just like, yeah, let your imagination run wild. We would just send him pieces of clothing that we had made.
oh, how cool. I bet he
Yeah.
was thrilled to do that.
It was, yeah, he was so talented.
Yeah.
And he wasn't allowed on the lot because he wasn't part of the crew and everybody was tested. And so
Mhm.
we'd have to go to his apartment or meet him in a park.
Do the drop off at
Dropped
a
off.
park
Yeah.
bench in a paper
Uh-huh.
bag.
Uh-huh. Yeah, all on the
Great.
slide.
I love it. Was there a costume or a costume piece that you can remember that really needed to be like workshopped in various ways to get the design just right or the fit just right or the practical application of it the way you
Yeah,
needed it?
well, Jamie Lee Curtis's costume was probably the most difficult.
Mm,
Make that character and Jamie Lee Curtis come together and be able to do everything that she had to do in the film, which was quite active and,
yeah.
wet and jump in the thing. So that was the one that I went through so many designs before we really came up with something, the right color, the right fit, the right shape. Yeah, I was having trouble. I would do these designs. It's like, God, she looks like a Revolutionary War soldier. We get rid of that. And
Yeah.
so that was the most challenging and then also the most interesting, right?
Yeah, I like that you just said that because oftentimes it is the one the the project or the thing, the problem, I'll put that in quotes, like that you're really trying to solve and work that actually ends up being like one of your favorites or the most
Yeah.
rewarding because of the trial along the way.
I've done so many movies about real people, and I don't like when you're doing an impersonation
Mm,
or with the actors, and I try and make them inhabit that character. And that was the same with the characters in Borderlands. Some are very close to the game, and then some are not. And it's just because the nuts and bolts of the film.
yeah. Yeah, and that was something also interesting. Now, I had played Borderlands a little bit, not
Oh,
a whole lot.
cool.
And my friend actually does the voiceover for the angel that guides you, the first one. I'm not really sure, but it's not in the movie, obviously. And so I thought it was interesting that the film is based on the video game, but the characters aren't exactly the same. They're like characters that, you know, are kind of that world you may relate to. You may kind of be like, oh yeah, that's from, this world of people or something, but they're different. So with that in mind, and with this fun, not only fun cast of characters, but fun cast of actors playing
Oh
these
yeah.
fun characters, what was the collaboration like with these actors on their looks or their preferences for their character look? Did they throw out a lot of preferences?
Oh, oh yeah. No, I love to work with actors. That's the best, one of the best parts of our job. I love the collaboration, making the actor the character. And you
Yeah.
might find the one little thing that you might not even notice watching the film that makes them feel like the character. And then there's the nuts and bolts. I did the design for Lilith, and the studio liked it, director, Kate liked it. And then she was in London, we were in Budapest. So I sent her the pants that we had made and the boots for her to try. And we did a video Zoom where she's like trying to do all the leg things. And it's like, oh yeah, this works. This works. Oh, can the pant be a little bit lower here? It'll help me move better. And so that nuts and bolts. And oh, the boots are great. I can do everything.
Does Kate Blanchett, does she actually do all those like high kicks and roundhouse?
Oh, yeah. She was amazing.
That's
Well, the
incredible.
costume had to move. And, the first time that she lifted up, it's like, oh, that we've got to fix that.
Yeah. So Kevin Hart is also in it, and
Yes.
he, like his like kind of military svelte kind of look there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that that was kind of another tricky one to like get for him to be able to do his movement as well.
Yeah, it was surprisingly, it's pretty close to one of the costumes that that character wears in the game. And it was the one thing that one of the few things that we made outside of Budapest. We had that sweater knit in Italy.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
we tried to do it ourselves and piece together knit fabric. It just didn't work. So we found a knitter in Italy that made them for us. And then we painted them and degraded them.
Do you remember how long your pre-production was?
I think it was maybe 12, 14 weeks. So it was a good time. I did some original design work in Los Angeles before I went to Budapest.
And it was this, you say it was during the pandemic. Was it during the height of the, was this 20?
It was, I went, oh God, I'm so bad with years.
Well,
Um,
you've also worked on several projects since then, so I'm kind of asking you to make a
yeah,
lot of a haystack.
it was a while ago. Yeah, I went in January 2nd of 2021
Okay.
or 22. 21, right? 21.
Okay.
So it was before I could even get a vaccine, before
Yeah.
vaccines available. And the whole country was locked down, so we
Yeah.
were safe.
That's several films actually that have come out this year were shot during the same time. So
Yeah.
it's really incredible what was able to still continue,
Yeah.
though with a lot of perimeters, which I understand.
Yeah.
Um,
The
so
funny thing was I had done a very small film right before that, and it was sort of one actor on one set with
was
just a
that the
few.
phone booth?
No, it
No,
was The Guilty
the
with
guilty.
Jake Gyllenhaal. And it was so funny when Jamie Lee Curtis came in, she said, oh, have you done any, I said, yes, I did this small one actor, one film. She goes, you mean The Guilty? And I said, yes. She goes, Jake Gyllenhaal's my godson.
Oh my goodness.
And he was staying at my house.
Oh, that's great.
Funny.
What a cool connection there. Because I love her husband too. It's
Yeah.
hysterical, like all of his movies. And I saw that he was like a baron or something. So like
Yeah.
the two of them are like a baron and a baroness, or I don't know. It's like I was just like, well, that makes sense because I feel like there's always just something really unique that you
Yeah.
find out about Jamie Lee Curtis. You're
And
like,
her
oh, that's really
grandparents are
cool.
from Hungary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Tony Curtis's parents emigrated from
Oh,
Hungary.
I didn't realize that. I read his biography and it was
Oh, you
really
did?
good. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
wow.
sure he says it in there, but that he was from Hungary, but I didn't remember that. But he did change his name, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. I love that. That little
Everybody changed
connection.
their names back then.
Right. Oh, I know. So true. So, was there a favorite like moment or a favorite design that kind of came out of this particular film that you're like, I didn't think it would end up looking this cool, this particular look or this particular costume? Is there one that you're really excited about?
Well, they were all fun in their own way. It's hard to pick a favorite. I loved, the outcome of Tiny Tina's costume because we had to figure out where she's going to hide her bombs and be able to run around. And I said, what about a little raincoat? And everybody liked it. And the first fitting with Ariana was so much fun. But it was funny because until she came to town, we had the design, but to see it on the body, it was like we have to get all the proportions right. How short should the skirt be? How long are the pants? One leg is up, the two different shoes. So the first fitting, you couldn't tell anything because it was all just pinned and cut and the sleeve is and then the second fitting where we adjusted it all, it's like, oh yeah, it
Oh,
works.
there she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's the one with the rabbit ears, right?
With the rabbit ears. Yeah, the rabbit ears too tall, too short,
Right.
that kind of thing. We had all these different patterns to try on to make sure that the proportion was all right.
It's
Uh,
those little nuances that really can make or break a look. And the general audience doesn't even know that that's the amount of hours in detail that you, the
and they
designer,
shouldn't.
right, they shouldn't, but still, it's really incredible to know the amount of hours just to get it just right. An inch taller on the ears might have looked,
Yeah.
too comical or, you know.
And then she's got to fit through the door too. And the other thing that was really fun for me to do was the psychos, because we sort of banged them all together and we found all this, surplus stuff. Like somebody brought in old tires and we cut them up and I had about six mannequins in a row and I would be putting this stuff together and we had this amazing leather worker and she'd make a leather piece to hold across and put them on and then the artist painted the stuff for us and those were really fun to do.
Yeah.
Bring in these guys and try them all on, and they're looking at me like, "What are you crazy? Why is there a stop sign on my chest?"
Wow. And you are no stranger to action between Jurassic World and Logan and X-Men. I love the spans of your portfolio because it goes from action, sci-fi, action, fantasy action, then these beautiful period pieces like Saving Mr. Banks and Cinderella Man. So, in your full body of work, what is one of your top costume challenges that you really enjoyed figuring out?
Oh, wow, that's hard to say. They're all interesting in their own way. Sometimes the simplest thing is the hardest. Um, So, wow, that's hard. Yeah, every film has its own challenges, and I'm always so lucky that I've gotten to do lots of different kinds of films. Uh, and that's what I'm always looking for, to do something new or something different. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again because then you get bored and lazy. So they're all interesting in their own way. Oh, one thing that was really it worked out great was in The Blind Side. When we started, Sandra Bullock said, I want to look exactly like Leanne Tui. And we photographed clothes in Leanne Tui's and we looked at all of her clothes and she liked bright colors and patterns and flowers. And in the first fitting with Sandra Bullock, it just didn't look right,
Hmm.
those bright colors. And we figured it out in that first fitting. We took out all the color and all the pattern in her clothes, and then it worked. So then the skirts could be a little too tight. So she's just wearing neutrals, cream, and navy blue.
Oh,
And
interesting.
then it worked. And there's just some texture, no big patterns, no bright colors. Because when in the first fitting, it's like, well, this looks a little vulgar. And this
Yeah.
woman's smart.
Yeah. That's
So
really interesting.
that's the great joy of working with actors and figuring it out.
Yeah.
I was very proud after that first fitting. It's like, oh, now it works. Now this character works. And she was like, yes, now I'm the character.
That's awesome. I love that you just changed one of the elements of design to get there. You changed color, but you
Yeah.
stuck with the
Yep.
same silhouette, and that's really great. That's a
Yeah.
good lesson. You know, Daniel, what I can tell about you? You are a growth mindset person instead of a fixed mindset person. And the difference being fixed mindset, like, oh, I've succeeded really well in this particular genre or this particular style or look. So if I just keep repeating that so that uh, so I don't risk failure, you know,
Yeah.
but you're like, no, I want to challenge myself. I want to take on things that are different. And that is a growth mindset. And that's really inspiring to hear.
But I work with people that feel the same way.
Mm,
John Lee Hancock like does lots of different kinds of movies, and it's
yeah,
fun to work with him. And yeah, if you're not, I don't know, if you're not growing, it's not worth it.
yeah. We get one shot,
You
one
know,
shot to live.
when I first started, any job that I got offered, I would take. Didn't matter.
Yeah,
Um, so and now I'm trying to be more selective.
that's
And
great.
I want to work with my friends, of course, always.
Have you had a job with your friends that you went to Carnegie Mellon with?
Oh yeah, we did a lot of television shows together.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, another friend of mine was a production designer, and I do the costumes on pilots, and we did the David Copperfield specials, and
Oh,
my
that's
two
right. They worked on that with you. Okay.
yeah, and my two friends that I moved here with, we also did one of the jobs we did was the Olsen twins Mother's Day special. And they were little kids. And
Oh my
it was
goodness.
super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's
Super
great.
fun.
What fun memories.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I
Daniel, on my show, I like doing some deep dive questions that might kind of probe the back excesses of your mind for a little bit, and then end with some rapid fire, which are more quick,
okay.
surface level questions. So, I have a few deep dive for you. Number one, what is something you really like about yourself?
Ooh, wow. That's a hard one. What do I
You can
like
take
about
your time in answering. Don't rush
that
it.
you know what? I think I like my enthusiasm for things
Mm,
and challenges, and maybe that's what I
yeah,
like.
that's good to be enthusiastic to take it on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. Do you feel like that also helps your mindset in taking on the challenge rather than just like, yeah, I guess I'll take it, like just being enthusiastic? Does that shift
Oh yeah.
something for you?
Yeah, yeah. There's something in a script or in an adventure that a friend might invite you on. It's like, oh yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah,
So, I like the challenge and I like new and I'll, throw myself out there.
yeah. Is there a film you have done that has been very close to your heart, either because it's based on a true story that really resonated with you or based on your experience with the team that you had? And if you do have one, what was it and why is that one special to you?
That's an easier one. I got to do Ryan Murphy's production of The Normal Heart for
Mm.
HBO. And my friend who works with him called me and said, would you like to do The Normal Heart in New York with Ryan? And I was like, this is the greatest gift anybody has ever given me because I had seen the off-Broadway play and it so affected me. I went back the next night, even though it was sold out, and I got someone who had an extra ticket and I just paid them to go in and see it again. And it so affected me.
Wow.
And working on that production I mean, we laughed, we cried with the actors. The actors were so great, the straight actors and the gay actors all working together and to make this film that we're all very, very proud of. And my biggest fear was I don't want the costumes in this project to get in the way of the
Oh,
story.
yeah.
I don't want, even though it's, the 80s, I don't want anybody to like say, oh, what a fun costume, what a cute costume, ever.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good kind of rule to follow, especially for something that's so meaningful like that, that you want the
Yeah.
story to shine through and you just You're just water
And
sailing
the
the boat.
actors
You're just
feel
helping.
like a
Yeah.
character. Yeah, it was one of the greatest gifts. Every time I talk to my friend who I talked to last week, I said, "Oh, you still gave me the greatest gift ever."
That is so great. Is it one of those experiences for you or stories for you that each time you see it or experience it or think about it, that depending on where you are in life, something different touches you about
To
it?
me, it's about the AIDS crisis, the beginning, and so many friends in the industry and friends
Yeah.
from college, and so I just thought about them, as did the actors.
Yeah.
We were doing the film. We all recounted stories of people we knew, so it was a fantastic job.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's a great answer. And I can see how that one was an easier one to come to. It's like it was so um it feels like it was such a fulfilling experience that
Yeah,
it's
because
still in your heart.
I would say like the most fun day I ever had on a movie is when we shot at Disneyland for, saving Mr. Banks. It was the most fun day of all time. We had 1,000 people dressed in 1960s clothes, and a lot of the crew members' families came to be in it, and it was just so much fun.
Was all of Disney shut down to shoot that or just
It
areas?
didn't shut down at all.
What?
It's so weird. We started, I think our wardrobe call was midnight. And at 6 a.m. when the sun came up, all the extras were on set. The kids came in at the last minute. The two actors came on set, and we started shooting down Main Street before the park opened. And then when the park opened, they made people walk around us, but we shot, and then we were at the carousel, which was shut down. But that's it. Disneyland doesn't close.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's just funny to see our people from 1961 in all dressed up to go to Disneyland, and sport coats, and the kids are all dressed up, and then see the people that really were coming in tank tops and shorts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was really fun.
And I saw that the research site that you used for that was really fascinating. Like
Oh,
stills from,
Land. Yeah, it's people. This guy has this, I think it's called Land, and people send in their photos of going to Disneyland, and he puts them in year order. So it was amazing because it was really helpful for the vendors and all of that, because Disney archives. And we had to make all of the walk around characters from 1961 because they said they didn't exist, but I think they were lying. The Disneyland people,
yeah,
uh, and the Disney film people don't really interact.
gotcha. That makes sense.
But
There,
it was a fun project as well. But
yeah.
then
Oh, yeah. That film is stunning in all of the different areas. And I love the colors and the textures you use and your explanation of PT Travers?
yeah, yeah,
PL Travers.
yeah, a
Um,
very interesting,
yeah.
complicated.
Yeah, that's so great. Um, okay. So is there a difficult lesson that you have learned in life about anything that you care to
Oh,
share?
don't be too set in your ways.
Mm,
Be open, and that's a hard lesson to learn,
yeah,
because you talked about it earlier about being fixed in your mind about something, and it must be this way. That you have to be open, especially in the film business or the theater or anything like that. You
yeah.
have to be open. It's not just you.
Yeah, there's also, it seems like there's an ounce of humility that takes to not be set in your ways because pride is what wants you to be like, no, I chose the right thing. And but being humble enough to go, yeah, okay, your idea's better, or that didn't work, we'll have to do this. So,
And my idea might still be better, but if everybody else,
yeah,
you know, wants it that way, okay.
yeah,
You still can have it in your mind that, yeah, they made a wrong decision. And that helps your own ego.
right. It's funny. I know that we've all been there. We can probably all relate to that. Is there a bit of advice you follow which might fit under that same one for you? Or,
Well, advice that I give to like young people, I talk to a lot of young people trying to get in the business. It's like, say yes to everything. You know, that's what people look for. When I'm working with new people, I like people that say yes. Yes, 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 and then figure it out. I remember early on in my career, I there were two different movies, and it's like which, and my two friends that I moved here with, they said just say yes to both and then figure it out. And it worked out.
nice. That's awesome. Did Bob Mackie ever give you advice on anything?
Lots of advice. He's still a good friend of mine.
Oh, good.
Well, I just remember actually, this is a funny story, but his partner in business and life, we had gone to see a movie together, and I came out and I was like, this 20 or 20 something saying, well, it just seemed really fake. And they looked at me and said, it's a movie, it's already fake.
I love the one-liner there.
It was pretty funny. When I watch a movie now, I do think about that.
Yeah, you're like, let's not be so critical. We're already accepting that this
Or
is,
already accepting.
yeah. Um, okay, so I have a few rapid fire questions. Is there a movie that you can watch over and over again? And it doesn't have to be one of yours, it's just any movie.
Oh, yeah, there are a lot. I can watch All the President's Men over and over and over again. I can watch, oh, is it just Robert Redford films? I can also watch 3 Days of the Condor. I can watch Terms of Endearment. It's like I'll be just, changing the channel. It'll always be that scene with Jack Nicholson and Shirley MacLaine at the end of the movie, and it's like, oh no,
Oh,
it's gonna make me cry.
oh,
So there is a crazy movie from the 60s called What a Way to Go with Shirley MacLaine that has the most outrageously funny costumes. That was actually a lot of it was inspiration for Down with Love, uh,
oh, nice.
that I can watch anytime. Yeah, there are a lot of movies that I can watch over and over.
All the President's Men is one that I've recently put on my, oh, I want to rewatch that one. Just,
It's so good. And it's funny because sometimes we'll be talking. And I was actually, when we were on Logan, we were had this dinner and they were saying, oh, what's the best costumes you've ever seen in a movie? And I was like, I think it's All the President's Men. They're the best costumes because nothing seems wrong. It all
mhm.
just seems right. And it's funny when we were doing Game Change about Sarah Palin, the two writers of the book came in to do cameos as reporters, and this one, the tall guy, came in, and I had a Tattersall dress shirt and a brown knit tie, and he came in with a Tattersall shirt and a brown knit tie, and we both looked at each other, and it's like Robert Redford and All the President's Men. I always dress the cool reporters like that. I
Yeah,
really cheat.
that's great. That is awesome. That seems like one of those like simple things that could be the most complex that you're talking about. Like some people think, oh, they're just in suits. Like what's difficult about that? But it's
No,
so much more difficult to like make
those
sure they look
characters
uniquely them.
Those characters are so well defined from
Yeah,
every single part, from Jane Alexander, who opens the door, and it's like, oh, yeah, it's perfect.
yeah,
Perfect. Everything in that movie is perfect.
that's great. Well, on the to watch again list soon, it may be bumped up to gotta watch it tonight, now that we've talked about it. Okay, is there a place, now you are a world traveler. So, is there a place you have visited that you suggest others also visit?
Oh, wow. Lots of places. I think Bali was one of the most beautiful
Mhm.
places I've ever been to in my life, and the people were so beautiful and lovely. And I just recently came back from doing a show in London, and I love it there. I just love the theater and the museums and everything. The museums are free.
Oh yeah, wow.
Great. It's a great city. The food's great. The people are great. The crews are great.
Do you
I had the
have
best.
any? That sounds lovely. Do you have any travel trips? Like, are you going to any place outside of the
No,
48 states soon?
no, when I'm not working, I like to be home. It's like a vacation.
And read some of those books behind you.
and read some of my books.
There
We'll
you
go
go.
through them.
Okay, so since my last question for you was going to be if you've ever played Borderlands, we already know the answer to that. I'm going to change it to if you were one of the Borderlands characters, which
Uh-huh.
one would you want to be?
Oh, wow. Hmm. Hmm.
And it can be based on costume if you, if you just want to base it on what they're
Oh,
wearing.
I don't know. I could actually, the most fun for me to be would be Tiny Tina and just be this wild, outrageous, who cares?
Yeah,
Blow things up. That would be kind of fun.
that would be fun.
I'd
That's a
like
good
to be
choice. That's a good choice.
the boy version.
I think I would pick Lilith only because I like all the.
Yeah. Well, she's such a badass.
I do. Like my whole life I've always been like I want to take parkour classes. I haven't because I don't know where to fit it in yet.
Yeah.
But that would
You
be
could
so fun to
play.
just like run up walls and do high kicks and
Yeah. It was amazing to see Kate do all that
it's
stuff.
incredible.
She was so athletic.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Daniel, I am so glad you're on the show today. Thank you so much.
Oh,
And
it's my pleasure.
I feel like we've just literally got to the tip of the iceberg here. We've just scratched the surface to Daniel, and there's way more. So please come on the show again anytime you'd like, because
Anytime.
we've got to get to some more awesome details.
Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. You too, Daniel.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Come anytime.
Perfect.
All right. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to The Voice of Costume. Check out voiceofcostume.com to learn more, see upcoming guests, and be a part of our growing community.